So my dear children, after discussing several theoretical parts, now we are about to discuss several questions related to the food preservation unit. So first of all, as usual, we'll be starting questions from your textbook. So within the first question is given some MCQ type questions. So within these MCQ type questions, my dear children, you have to select the most accurate answer. The correct method of here, actually in your textbook, my dear children, there is a mistake. So when you refer with the Sinhala medium textbook, it is given correct method of, actually a correct method of modern food preservation method. Okay. So I'll cut the correct and I'll include modern method of food preservation. In your Sinhala medium book, you can clearly refer that thing because it is given as the modern method. So I'll include modern in here. There is a mistake. Modern. Right. Modern method of preserving food is salting, smoking, immersing in honey, freezing. You know that freezing is the modern method of food preservation. Freezing. Okay. So freezing is our answer. Some aims of adding additives to food are given below. Adding a flavor to the food. Correct, right? Correct. Keeping food viscous. That is also correct. Viscous means, here we are increasing the thickness of the food. Increasing the viscosity or viscous means, right? Here we are increasing the thickness of the food item. So it is correct. Preventing food from reacting with oxygen. That is also correct. That is, what do you mean by antioxidant? Right? That's correct. Okay. Preventing with the reaction of oxygen. That's correct. So all of these things are correct. Let's see what is the question being asked. Of the above, correct reasons are, so here as you can see, all of these things are correct. Example for a pre-cooked food, processed or pre-cooked food. Chutney, fruit drinks and jam are incorrect, my dear children. This powdered coconut milk, that's a pre-cooked food item. Okay, it's a pre-cooked food item. Then the next one. Which of the following is a disadvantage of food preservation? Disadvantage of food preservation. Prevention of food spoilage. Prevention of food spoilage. Actually, that is an advantage. Prevention of food spoilage is an advantage. Imparting an attractive appearance for food. Increasing nutritional value of food. Reducing appetite for natural food. So all of these things are, you can see these things are advantages. So it's giving an attractive appearance. It increases the nutritional value sometimes, right? But however, it reduces the appetite for natural food. So that is an disadvantage. That is a disadvantage. A clear disadvantage. So my dear children, the disadvantage of food preservation is it reduces the appetite for natural food. Which of the following is a food that does not spoil fast? If it is not spoiling fast, then it should be a what? A preserved food item. So select the preserved food item from the things given in here. So cow milk, bread, dry. Here you can clearly observe dry green gram, dried. So dried means here we are reducing the amount of water vapor or the water. If the water vapor or water is not there, definitely, my dear children, you know that it's a preserved food item. Right. So the second type of question, Place a tick if the correct, if it is correct, and the cross if it is incorrect. Cow milk is a food which spoils faster. So, my dear children, cow milk is a food that spoils faster. What do you say? It's correct, right? You know that if you take cow milk, within few hours, it's going to spoil very fast. It's going to coagulate within few hours. That original color, the brightish white color, is going to convert into a pale yellow color upon few hours. So it's because it's going to spoil very fast. So it's correct. Next one. Use of food added with synthetic colorings or flavorings is not very appropriate for consumption. So we discuss these things in very large context when we are discussing about the lesson part related to the additives. So I told you that, my dear children, okay, if you take the additives, if you consume more and more additives, it's not good for our health. So therefore, what can you say? The use of food which is added with synthetic colorings and flavorings is not very appropriate for our consumption. That is correct. It is not faulty to wash and reuse food wrappings. So it's not faulty to reuse food wrappings. Actually, we can reuse it, no problem with that. It's okay to reuse. However, it's not okay to recycle and re-wrap the food item from that thing. Okay? It's not good to recycle those things and it's not good to recycle those plastic items or polythene items and to re-wrap. Okay? Here they are not mentioning about re-wrapping, no. Just mentioning about reusing. Right? At our houses, when you take a polythene bag, we can reuse that polythene bag several times. We are not going to wrap food items from that thing. So therefore, it's correct. No problem. Next one. It is compulsory to state the date of preparation of food in the label of a bottled food. Absolutely correct. Definitely, if it is a packaged food item, there should be the date of preparation or the manufacturer date, right? Manufacturer date should be there. Definitely, that should be there. Change in the nutritional quality of food due to drying prevents microbial action. Change in the nutritional quality of food due to drying prevents the microbial action. Change in the nutritional quality, my dear children, nutritional quality of the food. Okay, upon drying, that thing is changing, but however, that is not the reason for the growth of microorganisms, right? For the reduction of growth of microorganisms. The reduction of growth of microorganisms happens mainly because of what? Mainly because of reduction in water. Not because of this thing, right? Not because of change in nutritional level. So this is incorrect. This is incorrect. So here 4 of the responses are correct and the final one is incorrect. Right then. State the method or the methods used in the preservation of following food types. Dried fish, name itself represents the method. Dried fish. So very simple, my dear children, the preservation method of dried fish is drying. Drying. Chutney. In chutney, we increase the concentration and we decrease the water level in the food. We increase the concentration and we decrease the water level within the food item. That's how the chutney or the pickled food items are being prepared mostly. Right? So we can write like this. Increasing increase in concentration and reduce in water content. Next one, jam. Once again the same thing, right? We prepare jam also by the same way. We increase the concentration and we reduce the water level, right? So in jam also, what actually there is no water. We never add water for the jam. So we just increase the concentration over there. So we can mention just increasing concentration. Increase in concentration. Sterilized milk or kalkiri. Very simple, name itself is going to give you the idea. Sterilized milk means sterilization. Sterilization, right? Kalkiri or sterilized milk is made by sterilization. So my dear children, these are the answers for the preservation types of preservation type. For dried fish, it's drying. Chutney, increasing the concentration and reducing the water content. Jam, we increase the concentration. Sterilized milk, sterilization. State separately the reasons why food does not get spoiled in the following methods of preservation. And now what you have to do, you have to mention the reason, right? Why the food is not getting spoiled when following these methods of preservation. Okay. So upon drying, my dear children, you know that we remove the content of water. We remove the amount of water, volume of water. So upon removing volume of water, content of water, the growth of microbial activity or growth of microorganisms is going to reduce. Okay, growth of microorganisms is going to reduce as water is important for the growth of microorganisms. So when drying, we remove water and we control the water factor, which is important for the growth of microorganisms. So you can write the answer. Removes water and reduce the growth rate of microorganisms. So removes water and reduce the growth rate of microorganisms. Next one, salting. So salt is a special type of a chemical. I told you that salt, common salt is going to go by the name called sodium chloride. So it has an ability to destroy microorganisms. And also, my dear children, salt has an ability to absorb water. Okay, salt has an ability to absorb water. So upon absorption of water also, growth of microorganisms is getting reduced. And my dear children, the other case is, as it is a chemical, it destroys microorganisms. Okay, so we can write destroys microorganisms. Then the next one, absorb water from food. Therefore, absorb water from food, therefore growth. Therefore growth of microorganisms therefore growth of microorganisms is getting reduced. Then the next one, keeping in the refrigerator. So by keeping food in a refrigerator, my dear children, we are controlling the favorable temperature for the growth of microorganisms, right? By minimizing the temperature, we are not giving a suitable temperature for the growth of microorganisms. So by that way, we can preserve food, as the growth of microorganisms are getting decelerated because of unfavorable temperature. Okay, so we can write temperature is changed which is not favorable for the growth of microorganisms. So in freezing, my dear children, or keeping in refrigerator, here we are changing temperature. So when the temperature is changed, it is not favorable for the growth of microorganisms. Then the final one, smoking. So in smoking, like in here, like in salting, we are going to destroy microorganisms by the chemicals in smoke. And upon smoking, the food item is getting dried out and water is getting evaporated. Okay, so we can write down our answer. Chemicals in smoke destroys microorganisms. Right? Chemicals in smoke destroys microorganisms. Then the next one is, my dear children, the other one, right? The other thing is that when you take the smoke, upon smoking, right? Upon smoking, water is getting reduced within the food item. water is getting reduced within the food item. So upon the reduction of water, growth of microorganism is also getting reduced, right? Water is evaporated. Water is evaporated and growth of microorganisms reduced. So these are the two things. Chemicals in smoke destroys microorganisms, that is the first thing, and water is evaporated when smoking and growth of microorganisms reduce. Okay, right. So once again, my dear children, when drying, it removes water and reduce the growth rate of microorganisms. That's how upon drying we can preserve food. In salting, salt has a certain chemical properties, so that chemical properties destroys the microorganisms, and once again salt has an ability to absorb water from food. Therefore, growth of microorganisms is getting reduced. Then the next one, keeping in refrigerator, temperature is changed, which not favorable for the growth of microorganisms. We'll put it as which is not. Which is not favorable. So temperature is changed, which is not favorable for the growth of microorganisms. Then the final one, smoking. Chemicals in smoke destroys microorganisms. That's the first step. Then the second one, water is evaporated, right? Water is evaporated and growth of microorganisms reduce. So when smoking, water is getting evaporated from the food item. Therefore, the growth of microorganism is getting reduced. Okay. So these are the two steps or the two things that can be identified upon smoking. The two reasons of the preservation. Right then. So let's move on with the next question. So my dear children, those are the questions that can be observed in your textbook. So we have answered all the questions in your textbook. Those questions were very easy. Now it's time to answer several extra questions related to the lesson part. So first of all, as usual, we'll head on to see what are our MCQ questions. So the first question is given, how does dehydration work to preserve food? Dehydration means removal of water. Okay, removing water, removal of water, evaporation of water, removal of water is referred as dehydration. So the first question is given, how does the dehydration or removal of water saves or preserve food? First one given, provides an acidic environment. Incorrect, right? Removes water content. Now that should be our answer. Right? That should be our answer. But however, we'll read the other things as well. It removes oxygen exposure. Once again, incorrect. There is no relationship with the oxygen when removing what? When removing water. Next one, it removes water content by freezing water particles. That's incorrect. We are never going to freeze in here. They are not mentioning about freezing. They are mentioning only about dehydration. Dehydration means just the removal of water particles, not freezing. Okay, my dear children? So the correct answer should be what? It removes water content. That's it. Not by freezing. No? How does freezing work to preserve food? Now the next question. How does the freezing is going to preserve food? Removes water content by freezing water particles. Removes oxygen exposure. Removes water content. Provides an acidic medium. So the same four answers can be seen in here, my dear children. But however, it removes the water content. We know that. But upon freezing, we are going to remove the water content. Doing what? By freezing it. By freezing the water particles. So we freeze down the water particles and we remove the water content. This is the answer. Removes water content by freezing water particles. Head on to see the next question then. Preservation of food means keeping food safe by preventing decomposition of food. That's correct, right? We keep food for a longer time period and we avoid the decomposition. Decomposition means actually the spoilage, right? So we keep food for a longer time period by reducing the decomposition or by reducing the spoilage of food. So that's correct. Stopping food spoilage. This is absolutely incorrect because we can't stop food spoilage. It's not stopping. It should be delaying. We are delaying the process of food spoilage, not stopping it. We can't stop the food spoilage, my dear children. Eventually, each and every food item is going to spoil on some day. So we can't stop food spoilage. However, we can delay it. So delaying process is the one which is referred as preservation. So always remember, food preservation means delaying the food spoilage, not stopping it. Okay. So my dear children, second one is absolutely incorrect. To retain quality of the food. This is correct, right? It's not a problem, but however, it's not that much accurate to the preservation. So we'll keep it like this. It's not accurately correct for the meaning of preservation. However, it's going to retain some quality, right? It's not a problem. Then, my dear children, food preservation means the most accurate answer. It keeps the food by preventing from decomposition. Okay. So, keeping food safe by preventing decomposition of food can be simply taken as what? Food preservation. Remember, it's not talking about the stopping the spoilage. It's talking about delaying, right? Food spoilage is due to microorganisms. Correct. Microorganisms are the ones which is mainly responsible for the spoilage of food, right? For the spoilage of food, microorganisms are the ones which are mainly responsible. So that is correct. Enzymes which produced, that is also correct. An internal factor. So when food item is going to, especially like fruits, if you take fruits and vegetables, when they are going to ripe, right? Especially, you know that enzymes are getting produced. So upon the production of enzymes, my dear children, what will happen? The spoilage process is going to accelerate. So enzymes are also helpful in spoiling food, right? In spoiling food. Next one, due to macroorganisms. That is also correct. Macroorganisms like weevils, housefly, right? Those organisms are also helpful in food spoilage. So therefore, this is also correct, my dear children. So all of these things are correct. Therefore, all the above should be our answer. Food spoilage is due to microorganisms, enzymes, and also because of macroorganisms. Correct. The main reason for preserving food is to improve its color and taste, make costly food available, increase its shelf life, change its texture. Main reason for preserving food. The main reason for preserving food is, my dear children, what we are going to do is, we are going to delay the food spoilage. By that way, we are going to increase the lifetime period of food item. We are increasing the lifetime period of the food item. It means we increase the shelf life. Shelf life means the time period which we can consume. Okay, we increase that time period. So that this is the correct answer. Which of the following is not an indication that food is spoiled? Not an indication. Not an indication that the food is spoiled. Color, incorrect. If the food item is spoiled, definitely the color is going to change. Smell, once again incorrect. You know that spoiled food is going to emit a bad odor or bad smell. 3. Taste, once again incorrect. Taste is also going to change. Number 4. Mass. However, right, small bit of a change of mass can be observed, but however, that is not that much considerable. Okay, upon spoilage of food, my dear children, mass is not going to change that much. However, eventually at the end of the process, I mean like at the end of the spoilage of food is finally getting decomposed into smaller particles. No, in that case, my dear children, mass is getting changed. But however, if you take the normal conditions, upon spoilage of food, mass is not that much dramatical change within the first few weeks, right? However, if it is getting decomposed, right? Decomposition and spoilage is related, but however, first of all, food is getting spoiled, then after it start to decompose. Okay. So upon decomposing, my dear children, we know that the mass is getting changed. But however, during the spoilage of food, we can't identify there is a dramatical change in the mass. Okay. But however, odor, texture, appearance, those things are going to change. Right then. Question number 7. When food decomposes, it improve its color and taste? Incorrect. When food is going to decompose, it's not going to improve the color and taste, right? Means that nothing changes. Once again, incorrect. Absolutely. You know that the color and the odor and the appearance and the texture, all of these things are getting changed. So it is incorrect. Creates a slimy nature. That is correct, my dear children. When food is going to decompose, it's going to create a slimy nature. That's correct. When you take meat, fish, after spoilage of meat and fish, you know that a slimy nature. Even with the bread, even with the rice also, you can observe this thing. A slimy nature with a bad odor can be observed. Then finally, no change in texture or taste. Once again, it is incorrect. Texture and taste is dramatically getting changed during the spoilage of food. So our correct answer would be, when food is going to decompose, it creates a slimy nature. Which of the following is a benefit of food preservation? Benefit. Benefit means it should be an advantage. Make seasonal foods available year-round, increase shelf life, decrease food waste, all of the above. So advantages or the benefits: make seasonal foods available year-round. Correct. That's what do you mean by consumption in off-season, right? year round we can eat it. We can eat the food item. So it is correct. Next one, increase shelf life. We discussed about that thing in the earlier question also. That's absolutely correct. Increasing shelf life means the time period that we can consume the given type of food can be increased. So it is correct. Number 3, decrease food waste. That is also correct. Upon the, right, when you are preserving food, we can use it for a longer time period, which helps to avoid the wastage. So that is correct. So my dear children, all of these things are correct. All of these things are correct. How does freezing foods affects the bacterial growth? Freezing affects the bacterial growth. It kills bacteria, stops or slows down bacteria, allows bacteria to grow rapidly, all of above. Freezing actually what's going to do is, always we are mentioning that the action of microorganisms are getting reduced upon the reduction of temperature. As there are no favorable factors for the growth of microorganisms, right? We know that growth of microorganisms are going to reduce. So my dear children, here we are not destroying microorganisms upon freezing. What we are going to do here is we are going to reduce the temperature and we are going to control the factor which is favorable for the growth of microorganisms, which is the optimum temperature. Then by that way, my dear children, what we are going to do is we are going to stop or slow down the growth of bacteria. Here bacteria is given, or bacteria represents. Okay, bacteria is going to represent the microorganisms. So it stops or slows down bacteria. That's why freezing of food affects the bacterial growth. That's how it affects the bacterial growth. Okay. What effect do salt have on food such as meat? It increases the amount of moisture in the meat. It is incorrect. I told you that it's not going to incorrect. It's not going to increase, but it is going to decrease the moisture level, right? It's not going to increase, but going to decrease the moisture level, because salt has a special ability to absorb water. Okay, so by adding salt, we absorb excess water contained within the food item. By that way, we control the level of water within the food. It dehydrates the meat and slows down the spoilage. That's our answer. Dehydration means, right, absorption of water. So it absorbs water and slows down the process of spoilage by slowing down the action of microorganisms. We'll see the third one also. It affects the pH and prevent spoilage. Once again incorrect. So you know that if you take salt is a chemical substance. Means that the pH value should also change? No, absolutely not. In order to change the pH value, it should be a basic substance or else an acidic substance. You know that common salt, right, or sodium chloride, it's a neutral substance. So the pH value is never getting changed here, right, as it is a neutral substance. So my dear children, upon adding salt or common salt, pH value of the food item is not going to change. However, pH value is also a factor which controls the growth of microorganisms. You remember that thing also. Not only moisture and temperature, but the pH value is also responsible for the growth of microorganism. There should be a good related pH value. Normally, microorganisms are growing under neutral conditions. High basic conditions are also lethal for microorganisms. High acidic conditions are also lethal for microorganisms. Okay? Normally, they are growing under neutral conditions. So, my dear children, pH value is also important to control the growth of microorganisms. But in this case, pH value is not going to be an effect, because when you take normal salt or common salt do not have a pH value. I mean, like heavy change. Like it does not have a pH value regarding to an acid or else to a base. It's a neutral. It has a neutral pH value. So the pH value is not going to change upon adding common salt. Then the next one. It increased the acidity level in the meat. Once again, incorrect. You know that I told you it's a neutral substance, so it can't increase the acidity level. Right. Can be preserved by salting. Rice, incorrect. We dry rice. Okay, we dry rice. Lime can be preserved by salting. So we add salt to lime to prepare what? To prepare pickled lime or else lunudehi. So it's correct, lime. Blank is dipped in honey to preserve after drying. So my dear children, after drying process, in order to preserve, we add or we dip these things in honey. It's obvious that this is a very traditional method of food preservation, especially we preserve this thing, right? Meat items. We preserve meat items by using this method. Ancient people, our native people, Vedda people, they follow up with this method. First they smoke, first they take meat and smoke them very well, and then thereafter they are going to insert those things into a honey container. By that way they keep them for a longer time period without getting spoiled. So our correct answer should be meat. Next one, gives an idea about the time which food is best for consumption. Date of manufacture, date of expire, retail price, mass or weight. Gives an idea about the time which food is best for consumption. The time period which the food item is best for the consumption. We can get an idea about that. By using the manufacturer date, my dear children, we can get an idea, but up to a certain level only. Up to a certain level only. We know the manufacturing date and that is okay. That is okay. Manufacturing date is okay. But however, expiry date should be there in order to get an idea about the certain time period which we can use or which we can consume that food item. Now let's imagine like this. If you take a bottle of cordial can be kept for a longer time period, like in years. If the manufacture date is only being printed over there, then we can't come into a conclusion that when it is going to expire. Like how much of a time period can I use that thing? Up to how much of a time period, up to how much of years, up to how much of months, I won't be able to measure and take a certain, a benchmark. So in that case, my dear children, the manufacturer date is actually, we can't get a clearer idea about the time period. But however, even though the manufacturer date is not there, but if the expiry date is there, then my dear children, I can come into a conclusion directly. This item is going to expire on this day. So before that I have to use it. So I can get a certain idea about the food item only by considering about the expiry date. So a better knowledge, a better idea is given about the time period which the food item is best for consumption by checking the expiry date. Not an advantage of food preservation means it should be a disadvantage. Food can be used for long time. It is an advantage. Reduction in taste and smell. That one is a disadvantage, my dear children. So this should be our answer. It reduces the taste and smell, right? So it's a disadvantage. It's not an advantage. Let's see the other ones. Can be used in off-season. Correct. It is an advantage. Minimize the rate of spoilage. That is also correct. It is an advantage. So this is the only answer that carries a disadvantage. So not an advantage of food preservation is reduction in taste and smell, because it is a disadvantage. Next one. Traditional method of food preservation. Traditional method of food preservation. Drying, spray drying, canning, adding preservatives. So canning, adding preservatives and spray drying, all of these things are modern technologies. So the correct answer would be drying. Drying. Next one. Okay. Not a disadvantage of food preservation. Not a disadvantage. Not a disadvantage means it should be an advantage. Okay. Then select the advantage from the given list. Increase in risk of causing diseases. It is a disadvantage. It is a disadvantage. Reduction in taste and smell. Once again a disadvantage. Changing flavor, smell and color. Once again a disadvantage. Utilize the surplus effectively. That's an advantage, my dear children. So this is the answer. Check the question carefully. It's mentioning not a disadvantage. Not a disadvantage. That means it should be an advantage. So advantage of food preservation is utilize the surplus effectively. Means that the extra amount can be utilized. Okay. So that's an advantage. Next one. Chemical substances added to the packaged food in preservation. Flavorings. Correct. Colorings. Once again correct. Antioxidants. Correct. But however, all of these things can be added for the food items. All of these things can be considered as chemicals. So my dear children, the most accurate answer for this question would be additives. Additives are the ones that we add for the food items. The special chemicals that we add for the food items. Within additives, these things can be observed. No problem. Okay. A synthetic food additive. Synthetic food additive. Synthetic means, my dear children, should be an artificial one. Artificial food additive. Let's see. Sodium bisulfite. Correct. Sodium metabisulfite. Once again correct. We studied these things. Artificial vinegar. Artificial vinegar means, my dear children, that is aqueous form of acetic acid, right? I'll mention diluted acetic acid. Artificial vinegar means diluted acetic acid. So all of these things are, my dear children, synthetic food additives. All of these things are synthetic food additives. Right. Question number 19. Deep freezing temperature in Celsius degrees. So it's quite obvious, my dear children, a straightforward theoretical question. The deep freezing temperature, right, deep freezing temperature in a refrigerator is exactly around -18. Exactly around -18. negative 18 degrees of Celsius. Next one, freezing temperature in Celsius degrees. Freezing temperature. So freezing temperature is around 4 degrees of Celsius, my dear children. For vegetables and fruits, we use this freezing process. For meat and fish and sausages, we use deep freezing. Right. Modern method to preserve food. Modern method to preserve food. Drying. You know that drying is not a modern method, my dear children. Like in the ancient time period also, drying is being used. So drying, it's a traditional and an ancient method of food preservation. Drying. Dipping in honey. Once again the same. I told you that even the native people like Vedda people, they used this technique to preserve meat items. So it is incorrect. Spray drying, that's correct. Spray drying is correct. Because by spray drying, we can preserve milk. That's how the milk powder is being prepared. So spray drying is correct, my dear children. Okay. Next one. A macroorganism that helps to spoil food. Macroorganism means an organism that can be observed from our naked eye. Right? A large organism. So it should not be a microorganism. Okay, it should not be a microorganism. So my dear children, the first and foremost answer is correct. The housefly. Amoeba is a microorganism, bacteria is also a microorganism, fungus is also a microorganism, type of a microorganism. So housefly should be our answer. It's a type of macroorganism which helps to spoil food. You know that when you take meat and fish, these houseflies are going to lay eggs on those types of food. Then maggots are coming out. From those maggots, my dear children, the spoilage will occur. Spoilage process will accelerate it. Okay, so that's how these houseflies are going to contribute in spoilage of food. They're going to lay their eggs within the food item. Not even with the food, fish and meat, but also in other food items as well. Right? So that's why it's important to cover the food. Right? Especially that's why you are being asked to not to eat street foods which are sold in open places. Okay, right then. Move on to see the next question. Increase in concentration can be used to preserve. Increase in concentration can be used to preserve lime fruit. Incorrect. We can't increase the concentration of lime fruit, right? It's not even like related. Next one, meat. Once again, incorrect. Cordial, that should be our answer. We can preserve cordial by increasing the concentration. Right? We can preserve cordial by increasing concentration. Actually, cordial is also being preserved by increasing the concentration. So that's our answer. Smoking can be used to preserve mango. Incorrect. Mango is incorrect. Rice, once again incorrect. Lime, again incorrect. But Gracinia can. Gracinia means, in Sinhala terms, we refer that thing as Goraka. Gracinia, right? So we can smoke and we can preserve upon the drying process. Okay, right, then we'll move on with the next question. Spray drying can be used to preserve. Spray drying. Spray drying can be used to preserve what? It's really obvious, my dear children. In spray drying, we take the liquid and we spray on a certain metal covering. So by that way, you know, we can collect the powder. So milk is the one which we can preserve by using the spray drying process. Milk. Next one. Solar dryer uses blank to dry food. electricity, solar heat, magnetism, electromagnetism. It's a really obvious question and a very simple question, my dear children. Even the earth itself or the oven itself refers the solar. So there should be, this one should be definitely for sure. We know that solar energy. A very simple question, solar energy. Food item that has been preserved. A food item that has been preserved. Lime fruits. It's not mentioning whether the lime fruit is being pickled or whatever, fresh or whatever. So therefore, we can't get an exact idea. So I'll keep it like this. Fresh meat, absolutely not being preserved. Vegetables, once again the same, not being preserved. However, sausages, if you take a sausage, it's a pre-cooked, preserved food item. Okay, so therefore our answer should be sausages. Lime fruit, we don't know whether it is been preserved or not because there are no certain, it's not been given whether it is been a preserved one or not. If it is given as like dried lime fruit, then it is correct. Salted lime fruit, then it is correct. Then it is preserved. However, we don't know the condition. Therefore, we don't know whether it is been preserved or not. Right then. A type of an antioxidant. Type of an antioxidant. Riboflavin, pectin, citric acid. Citric acid. Antioxidant. Citric acid should be the answer. Right? Citric acid is an antioxidant. Right. The next question. Select the correct answer. Okay, you have to select the correct answer. Lime fruits can be preserved by deep freezing. What do you say, my dear children? Is it correct? Lime fruits can be preserved by deep freezing. Absolutely incorrect. Upon deep freezing, lime fruits cannot be preserved. It's not a good method of preservation for fruits and vegetables, the deep freezing process. Deep freezing process is being followed to preserve fish and meat. Okay? If you take these deep freezing things to do with vegetables and fruits, definitely they are going to destroy within several, few hours. Definitely those things are going to destroy. So deep freezing process is not a thing. It's not a method that can be used to preserve fruits like lime. We can't use it for any kind of a fruit. Fresh fruits are not being deep frozen, but however, those things are being frozen. Okay? Those things are being frozen. Freezing and deep freezing are two different things. In deep freezing, my dear children, we keep the temperature around negative 18 degrees of Celsius. But however, in freezing, we keep it in around 4 degrees of Celsius. So there is a huge gap. Vegetables and fruits are being saved or preserved by freezing, not by deep freezing. So it is incorrect. Fresh meat cannot be preserved by deep freezing. Once again incorrect. Actually, fresh meat can be preserved by deep freezing. If you keep fresh meat in a normal freezer, in a normal, at the top corner of the refrigerator. Not at the top corner, bottom corner. There are two levels now in a refrigerator, top level and the bottom level. If you keep fresh meat in bottom layer, definitely that food item or the fresh meat is going to spoil within 2 or 3 days. We can't use. It's going to spoil. However, if you keep the food item or the meat or fresh meat in that top layer where the deep freezer is present, in that case, my dear children, you can keep the same food item, same fresh meat for about longer time period? It's because deep freezing is the process that we use to preserve fresh meat or fish, not freezing. Vegetables can be preserved by freezing. That's correct. That's the correct answer. We can preserve vegetables and fruits by freezing, like I said earlier. Okay. Fourth one, sausages are not being preserved. Absolutely incorrect. Those things are pre-cooked food. So, those things are already being preserved. Next one. SLS stands for, very simple my dear children, SLS stands for Sri Lanka Standard Institution. Sri Lanka Standard Institution, SLS. That's the institution which shows the quality in Sri Lanka, which protects the quality of food in Sri Lanka. Okay, SLS. Right then, so my dear children, we have answered several questions related to the lesson part. We did several questions related to the textbook. Then we discussed several questions, MCQ questions related to the lesson part, right? So with this one, I'm going to wind up this chapter. In the next chapter, we'll be starting essay type questions. In those questions, you have to answer, right? Not like this, you have to answer the given questions. Okay. So we'll meet you in the next chapter to answer with the essay type questions.